Northwest of the majestic Mount Fuji is a sprawling 13.5 square miles of Okihigahara, a forest so thick with foliage that it's known as the Sea of Trees, but it's the Japanese landmark's horrific history that's made the woods a fitting location for the spooky horror film The Forest. Untold, visitors have chosen this place, notoriously called the Suicide Forest, as setting up their final moments, walking in with no intentions of ever walking back out. Here are a few terrible truths and scary stories that forged Akihigahara's morbid reputation. Akihigahara is one of the most popular suicide destinations in the world. Statistics on Akihigahara's suicide rates vary. In parts of the forest, it is so lush that some corpses can go undiscovered for years or might be lost forever. However, some estimate claims as many as 100 people a year have successfully killed themselves there. Japan has a long tradition of suicide. Self-inflicting death doesn't carry the same stigma in this nation as it does in others. Seppuku, a samurai ritual suicide thought to be honorable, dates back to Japan's feudal era, and while the practice is no longer the norm, it has left a mark. Vestiges of the seppuku culture can be seen today, and the way of suicide is viewed as a way of taking responsibility, said Yoshiro Chow, author of Why Do People Commit Suicide? The director of the psychiatric department in Tokyo University in I messed that up, I do apologize. Kawasaki Kangawa. Japan has one of the highest suicide rates in the world. The global financial crisis of 2008 made matters worse, resulting in 2,645 recorded suicides in January of 2009, a 15% increase from the previous year. The numbers reached their peak in March, the end of Japan's financial year in 2011. The executive director of Suicide Prevention Hotline told Japan Times, "Callers most frequently cite mental health and family problems as the reason for contemplating suicide, but behind that are other issues, such as financial problems or losing their job." Suicide prevention attempts include surveillance and positive posts. Because of the high suicide rate, Japan's government enacted a plan of action that aims to reduce such rates by 20% within the next 7 years. Parts of these measures include posting security cameras at the entrance of the suicide forest and increasing patrols. Suicide counselors and police have also posted signs on various paths throughout the forest that offer messages: think carefully about your children, your family, and your life is precious. Your life is a precious gift from your parents. It's naturally eerie. Bad reputation aside, there is no place for a leisurely stroll. The forest trees twist and turn, their roots winding across the forest floor in treacherous threads. Because of its location at the base of a mountain, the ground is uneven, rocky, and perforated with hundreds of caves. But more jarring than its tricky terrain is the feeling of isolation created by the stillness. The trees are too high, packed for winds to whip through, and wildlife is sparse. One visitor described silence as chasms of emptiness. She added, "I cannot emphasize enough the absence of sound. My breath sounded like a roar." Death by hanging is the most popular method of suicide among the Sea of Trees. The second is said to be poison, often by drug overdose. A novel popularized this dark tradition. In 1960, Japanese writer Kicho Matsumoto released the tragic novel Kurojaki, in which a heartbroken lover retreats to the Sea of Trees to end her life. This romantic imagery has proven a seminal and sinister influence on Japanese culture. Also, looped into this lore, the complete suicide manual, which dubs Akihigahara the perfect place to die. The book has been found among the abandoned possessions of various suicide forest visitors. Number 8. But it was not the start of the forest's dark legacy. An absurd is brutal form of euthanism That translates roughly to abandoning the old woman. An uncommon practice only resorting to in desperate times of famine, where a family would lessen the amount of mouths to feed by leading an elderly relative to the mountain or similarly remote or rough environment to die, not by means of suicide, but by dehydration, starvation, or exposure. Some insist that this was not a real occurrence, but rather grim folklore. Regardless, stories of the Sea of Trees being a site for such abandonment have long been a part of its mythos. The suicide forest may be haunted. Some believe the ghosts I can't pronounce that word, I do apologize, of those abandoned by upstairs, Upsasute, and the mournful spirits of the suicidal linger in the woods. Folklore claims that they are vengeful, dedicated to tormenting visitors, and luring those that are sad and lost off the path. 10. Annual searches have been held there since 1970. There are volunteers who do patrol the area, making interventional efforts. However, these annual endeavors do not intend to rescue people, but to recover the remains. Police and volunteers trek through the Sea of Trees to bring bodies back to civilization for a proper burial. In recent years, the Japanese government has declined to release the numbers of corpses recovered from these gruesome searches, but in the early 2000s, 70 to 100 were uncovered each year. And with that, I'm going to bring this to an end. This whole video was to prove to the point that going to a place that's called the Suicide Forest is not a good idea, because it's a place where people go to end their life and where they want to be forgotten in a sort of way. Those who go there to have a good time stay on the path, because that's what it's there for, is to bring you to Mount Fuji. But if you wander off the path, you're going to see something you didn't want to see, and it's going to either mess you up, or it might be the instance where you're going to continue walking off the path to do what others who came there before you did. So just remember, it might not seem like it, but the people around you love you. Your family loves you, and every moment on this world is precious. Thank you guys for stopping by. Sorry that this first commentary styled video of mine is a little depressing. I just thought maybe this would show or help open some eyes on why that forest is known as the Suicide Forest, and why it's not a good idea. But if you do go, just go with some friends, stay on the path, you should be okay. But do remember, you are loved by your family and your friends. You are cherished. If you are depressed, the best way to help with that is actually talking with someone. Studies have shown that talking with people or talking with loved ones has been known to be the best case to help depression, because it removes that feeling of isolation and allows people to feel like they're not alone anymore and they have to take on this demon by themselves. It's a great way to help lessen the load, kind of deal. But I hope this was informational for people, and you guys have a great night or day, and I'll see you guys later.